Welcome Strategy Battle Gamers to another GBHL YouTube video. You're here with host GBHL Damian, and this is my hobby vlog number 25. So for anyone who's following these things, I did my last one 3 weeks ago, and I said that I wasn't going to have a lot of time to paint that week because of Desolation Stockport, which I certainly didn't, but I'd hoped to get one to you last week. And unfortunately, the week after Desolation Stockport, I didn't get a lot of time to paint either, so I didn't make a lot of progress. However, a bit of that week and last week have been very productive, certainly by my standards, so I've got a fair bit to show you today, which is pretty cool. So I want to jump straight on to, if you remember in my last vlog, I showed you a kind of half paint, like a based and shaded versions of my Bat Swarms, a Twilight Ringwraith, and my Dulguldur Gandalf. And I asked you guys to suggest which one of those you wanted me to paint next. And no one voted for Gandalf. The overwhelming, everyone voted for either the Wraith or the Bat Swarms, which was fairly fairly clear. The Bat Swarms did win, so I did them first. So why don't we have a look? Thanks for all the kind comments about these. People seem to like the colour scheme I was going for, slightly more natural. And I'm pleased to say they are now finished. So here is one. If we can get in here and have a look at it. And I must say, I'm pretty happy with these. They're really awkward to move, and because they're metal, you know that they're very, very likely to kind of chip. You have to be careful being dropped. I'm not going to show you both of them because they are literally exactly the same. I'm not going to dwell on both of them. I'll show you these. But they are, yeah, I'm really, really pleased with how they came out. So I think I talked you through a bit of it before. I don't like the look of a lot of the Bat Swords where they're just black and grey, and I wanted to get a slightly more browns and flesh tones in there. So I think it was a Baneblade brown base coat on the wings in here, on the flesh, and then I gave it a, I think it's either Ogren Flesh or Caribou Crimson wash. If you watch the previous vlog, you'll be able to figure out which one of those it was. And then I basically, the wings were just double dry brushing. I just dry brushed up, I think it was Baneblade brown and maybe Karak Stone across these, and it gave an effect I was really pleased with. The bodies were originally painted dark brown, the kind of Mornfan brown, I think it is. No, sorry, Rhinox hide. And then I dry brushed them a selection of lighter browns and greys. So the grey, hopefully when you zoom out, you should see that there's a bit of a contrast where the bodies looks more grey, but there's definitely some brown colours in there. And then for the faces, I just highlighted them up again with Baneblade brown, followed by a final highlight of Karak Stone to give them some quite strong contrast in there. And they're really cool. I like this model a lot more than I liked it when I bought it. Again, perhaps because of the paint scheme, I don't think it looks quite as dull, and I'm very, very pleased with how it turned out, all told. I also I gave them little red eyes in there, but then gave the red eyes a wash so they wouldn't look too quite cartoony in a way. Let me see if we can see some of these. They're very, very small, the eyes, but you might be able to see a couple. Pick up on a couple of these, I don't know. And I think I picked out the teeth in Xandri dust, I think it was, to make them look quite yellowy. And then I also used Karak Stone, pure Karak Stone, to kind of come up the longer kind of arm joins up there, up to the horns and the legs in there. I painted them with pure Karak Stone, so those, and up here, kind of bring them out a bit. But then I just watered down some Rhinox hide and gave that a bit of a wash to kind of dull them down a bit. So as you can see, they still look more prominent and clearer than the kind of wings, the kind of wing fingers in here, but they don't look too bright. So yeah, they were quite good fun, I think. Let's get the other one in. Look exactly the same, but you know, hey ho. They were quite good fun to paint. Once I figured out what I was going to do with them, there was a lot of trial and error of kind of washing and then dry brushing and then highlighting and then washing and so on and so forth. But I like the colour scheme that they ended up with, all told. I like that. If you look here, I think you can clearly see the kind of reddy, fleshy influence that I was going for in with all the browns on the skins. I was quite pleased with how that came out. They're cool little faces. I don't really understand the faces. Like this one, for example, is pretty clear. You can see the ears, the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. But then down here, I'm not sure exactly. You know, they're the ears, but you can kind of see some eyes, but what are those three little dots under his nose? Are they meant to be teeth or what? And the same sort of thing down here. You get they're weird little faces, but I think they're cool. They're a little bit Warhammery, but I think they're quite cool. So yeah, I managed to get both of them. So we'll put him there and turn this one around. And get down So I've now got 2 bat swarms, which is kind of cool. It's something I've kind of wanted to flesh out my evil armies for a while. I think they're very good in the game, but they're also just quite fun and quite evocative and quite Middle-earthy, quite Tolkien-y. Particularly as they turn up in the Battle of Five Armies and all that. I think they go along with some evil Hobbit forces quite well as well. Just need some sort of Moria hero to lead them. I guess maybe a Warg Chieftain might be the best fit for that. But yeah, so I did my bat swarms, and I'm really quite pleased with how they turned out. Then obviously the next choice was the Twilight Ringwraith, and this was a really interesting one because I did some research as I normally do to get some pictures up, and this is what I came up with. Oh god, that is a completely different colour. I wonder if it's going to take a while to get used to it. There we go, that's the colour that it looks like. So these are screenshots from the Hobbit movie, how he appears in Unexpected Journey, and this is what I was going for. This kind of thing. So it's this scene here where he attacks Radagast, and it's I think it's tricky to paint. Like genuinely looking at it, I was like, I've tried to do this before with Galadriel, a similar sort of effect, and it looks cool on screen, but actually painting that is something I really struggle with because the shading on it isn't very dark, so your contrast isn't high. You know, your shading's green, so I wasn't sure quite how to go for that. But Galadriel I originally wanted to be bluer. Now you've seen my Galadriel before, but let's just bring her in once this wakes up. This is my Galadriel. There she is. And I did want her to be bluer rather than the white, but I was still going for the same effect of having the kind of blue in the shadows. And I'm quite pleased with how Galadriel turned out. And I think it fits her, how she appears in the Battle of Five Armies, pretty well. But that isn't what I wanted for the Twilight Ringwraith. So for the Twilight Ringwraith, I genuinely wanted this this kind of green background. It'll go green in a minute, won't it? It's not blue, there we go. That kind of green shading and a largely white figure. And so, this was something I'd never painted before, and I gave it a go, and here he is. He wakes up. That's not it. That's not it. That's it. So here is my Twilight Ringwraith, which is a model that was very kindly traded, I believe, by Sam Jeffrey a while back for Thror or something like that, or young Thorin perhaps. He did me a very generous trade. So here's how he looks. It is a great model. For anyone who doesn't recognise this, it's from very, very early in it was 2001. This was released, there were 3 of these released as Twilight Ringwraiths for the Fellowship of the Ring. They're meant to be how they appear at Weathertop. And I think it's not bad. It's still not quite how I had it in my head, but I think it's pretty good. So you saw this 3 weeks ago when it was kind of painted blue and shaded and kind of dark, and it looked very, very dark. And basically, I've obviously just highlighted up. Now I've still left the blacks in the crevices, which isn't how it appears on the film, but I think it's probably worth it. I think you have to make some kind of concessions to reality when you're painting to kind of make it stand out. And I do think he looks quite cool, and I think he looks quite ghostly, and crucially for me, he does have the greeny blue hue. So I want to talk you through how I painted him, because it was really quite simple. I used 3 colours for the highlights. I used, what was that? Hoeth Blue, Nurgling Green, and Pallid Witch Flesh. And what I basically did was I mixed these 2 together to make a kind of greeny turquoisey colour, and then I just added this and highlighted up through 4 layers. And in case you're interested, God only knows if you'd be interested in this, but I've actually still got it on my palette, so here's how I did it. So I started off with this green up here, and this kind of dark green. Is it going to be better if I do that? Better, do we think? Probably not. I think that's probably that's a better representation. So I started off with this green and basically highlighted the entire model with it, and then I moved on to this green, so I've added more Pallid Witch Flesh over here in this bit, and highlighted the entire model with that. Then I moved on to this screen here, which added more Pallid Witch Flesh into it, and then finally I went to this, which is almost pure Pallid Witch Flesh with a tiny little bit of bluey green, and that I didn't highlight the entire model, so that's almost pure white. See the others, so there were 3 layers of paley green, this minty green, getting lighter and lighter as I come around here, and the final highlight was only used on the face. You can see it on there. I put it on the sword, I put it on the fingers, so it's used on the flesh, and and it's used on these kind of chainy bits down the front. So it's basically to make some of it pop, and I do think it works. If you stand back, you can see that the fingers, yeah, I think you can see it on there, the fingers and the face and that the chains down the front do look kind of whiter and brighter, and that was the point, to kind of make those kind of shine. So it's kind of cool. I'm pleased with how it came out. It was something very, very different to paint. Nice to paint some metal models. First time in a while I've been doing them, and it's a really, really cool model, and I'm pretty happy with that as an approximation of this guy. Come on back around. There he is. We'll bring him in. It's probably not going to work, is it? Yeah, that sort of thing. But you've seen them both pretty clearly now. So I'm pretty happy with how he turned out ultimately. And he's a cool looking model. I don't think I've got anything else particularly in the pipeline for this kind of style, but I still feel like I'm learning that technique. I'd like to have a go if I had I've got a few Army of the Deadline around. Probably won't do this for 2 hours, but I'd like to have a go not doing the kind of black crevices and essentially having just, well, they're not black but dark blue, just having a bright blue or a bright green as the base, and then highlighting up straight to white almost. So you do have that huge jump, because here you get a very natural transition, I think, between the colours. I think it looks quite cool, and the blending is quite nice. But I think to get that real spirit look, you almost just need almost the two colours, a strong blue in the background and then a really, really, really bright white highlight perhaps. But who knows, I'm still learning, as I think everyone is, and I was pretty happy with how it turned out. So that's him done. So with that complete, there was only one model left to do, really, wasn't there? Which was my Dulgorder Gandalf, and he's not finished, I have to admit, because none of you wanted me to paint him. None of you voted for him, so he got dropped down to the bottom of the list. But he has had some work done since you last saw him. So when you'd last seen him, he'd just been based and shaded, and he has now had one highlight all over. So everything's been highlighted once. Well, I should say at least once. There we go. So some bits have had more than others, but there's still a lot of work to do on his robes. Why is this having trouble? Let's come up here, see if that works. There's still a lot of work to do on his robes, but the most work I've done has been on his flesh and skin, and I don't know if you can get in here, but I'm really very happy with how his face has turned out. I go so far to say as his face is now finished. I need to paint in some eyebrows, but I think that looks pretty good in there. And obviously I haven't done his beard. You see there's some of the flesh colour on the beard. But yeah, I need to paint some eyebrows in, but I was pretty pleased. That looks pretty good there. Where I managed to get the eyebrows above, the eye, what are they called? Lids. The eyelids in above his eyes, with an extra layer of kind of shadow to go underneath the eyebrow. It took a bit of time. I actually used my, for the first time, I broke out my Army Painter Insane Detail brush, which is the free gift from our swag bag at Nova, which is very cool, and I broke that out for the face. And so he's coming along well. He's certainly not finished, as you can clearly see, but he's now what I'm currently filming this on Sunday afternoon, and I'm going to keep working on him today. Actually, I've got a bit of painting time, so he's next on the list, and I would certainly hope we'll be done by my next vlog. However, I've also been painting something else. I know, right? This is crazy for me. Now, I'm not going to show you these. It's a bit of a super secret, but I want to give you a bit of a hint. And we're going back to the palette. You're getting a lot of palette view this time. Just pan over some of these, because the two models I've been painting inside here. So you see these colours? We've got we've got a kind of dark blue, some white, a bit of flesh colour, Steel Legion drab over there, a bit of metal, kind of dark. It's a kind of black, kind of near black, and then some browns in there. So I've been painting two models, and to give you a hint, you haven't seen me assemble either of these. You've seen nothing about these models on any of my vlogs or anything, but I've been painting two models using this colour scheme, and they have to be finished by next week. There's always potential I might miss the deadline, but for one reason or another, my deadline is next week. So in my hobby vlog next week, these models really have to be finished. So I'm going to run a competition, and anyone who watches the Plantier will know the quality of this competition. The prize for this competition is the chance to win yourself a Freddo. What I want you to do is tell me which two different models you think I'm painting that are both, curiously enough, using exactly the same colour scheme. Okay? So two models, and they've both been done in this colour scheme, and that's what I'm working on at the moment. And my hope is that when you come back, when I come back next week, I should have a hobby vlog next week, you'll see those 2 models finished and this Dol Guldur Gandalf finished. And then I think I'm going to have to finally bite the bullet and start painting the last 6 of those horrible, horrible elves. But yeah, so that has been my work over the last, it's the last 2 weeks really. I didn't do a lot in the previous week, but that's what I've been working on. Really, really happy with how the Bat Swarms turned out. Really pleased with how the Twilight Ringwraith turned out, and I'm quite pleased with how Gandalf's coming along. So yeah, I'm going to sign off here and carry on working on my Gandalf model, and hopefully you'll see the results of that next week. So don't forget to drop down the bottom and let me know what 2 models you think I've been working on. So until next time, as ever, don't forget to comment, like, share and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook. Pledge to Jamie on Patreon. Support your Hobbit hobby and happy strategy battle gaming.